Greetings! This is I, Pathinder of Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! We're diving once again into the Pathfinder role-playing game system and, of course, its world of Golarion. If you're joining me live on Twitch, hey Twitch, follow would be nice. Great to also see you there. If you're joining me a little later on YouTube, hi YouTube! Also great to see you. Follow, liking the video, ringing the bell, all those things are great. My question for both YouTube and Twitch today is, have you played Talos? It's new. It's very new. You know? That's a question that's very important to ask, is with this new Ancestry released, this new Geniekin, I'm just curious. I'm sure plenty of people have already dived into it, since it's only from July last year. But that's what we're talking about today. Talos. So, much like anytime I talk about a topic, usually I give recommendations where you can do some research on your own. Of course, for most of this stuff online, I would recommend, you know, the Archives of Nethys, Pathfinder Wiki, and of course the PSFRD D20. The first two are the ones you'd really want to check out for Talos. I don't think the PSFRD has anything on it, because this is a very second edition thing. But let's show off the books you might want to check out. Well, in this case, book you might want to check out. Of course, which, there it goes. Age of Elements. Slight technical hiccup there. So yes, Talos are introduced here. It's the book I'd recommend. We'll get more stuff probably in the future, but this is a pretty good direct introduction to them. Let's talk about Talos. So, they're Geniekin. Again, traditionally that means they are born from a type of genie, and they're descended from mortal humanoids. Traditionally, most time, humans have relationships with a lot of things, and they get into their situations like this. But they're also connected to elemental creatures of the plane of metal, such as metal elementals or Zuras. There are also creatures that bear the spark of elemental metal, such as sky dragons. They also possibly happen to be born from mortal parents. If you're influenced by powerful energies from the plane of metal, or you're exposed to certain metallic fumes when performing alchemy, it can result in a Talos being born to you. Alright, so there's a lot of little ways that a Talos can be born. It's important to note the elemental plane of metal isn't that it's not around. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get to that. We need to discuss that pretty deeply here. And there's important things to mention about it. But we'll talk about it when we talk about Golarion. Alright, so a Talos bears unique metallic traits in their appearance. Skin and hair that remembers metal textures and colors. They might have a matte or deep dark, like cast iron or glint of sheen of polished steel to their skin. And it depends on the influence of their progenitors, ancestors. Some can rush or tarnish or scour with age. Hair can be wirely, spun, coiled, braided like chains. Resemble metals like copper, gold, and steel. Some bodies of experiences, Taloses, will exhibit other metallic properties like electrical conductivity or magnetism. There are this thing that Taloses do resemble other humanoids whose bodies incorporate metals like androids, amphorites, but their bodies are more organic and seamless in construction and periods when exposed, rusted, or tarnished metallic features. They don't have the craggy earthen features of Orids also, so there is this subtle way to tell a Talos from an Orid, most definitely. Boop. Sorry, trying to see a picture. A lot of Taloses are inspired to become adventurers. They have a very mercurial nature, that they often move between groups several times in pursuit of gold or wealth or glory. They're drawn to craft work and mining to become alchemist inventors. Some of them are drawn to arts and entertainment to become bards. It's important to note that the plane of metal was disconnected from Golarion for a while. I talked about this in a previous video with the, plane of wood, but the plane of metal, until recently, kind of disconnected. The reasons behind that very cosmological. We're not getting into that. But it meant that there were very, very few Taloses that existed on Golarion. They didn't form societies. They didn't have cultures of their own. Many were born into rural mining communities near exposed ore deposits of special kinds. They stood out more because of their gregariousness and their desire for attention, their struggle to connect with others, of their dual nature, and sometimes having a reputation for being inconsistent or lacking substance, which some of them do. So you can see, they were a rare child, very rare, and when they showed up, hard to fit in. Now, when it comes to deities, metal and craft deities are most relatable to Taloses. Torag, Daikitsu, Grandmother Spider. Those that are native to the plane of metal may worship the elemental lords, like the elemental lord of metal, Laudinomio, and I'm going to butcher this one, Ferumenstra. If I didn't butcher that one, thank you. Might have mispronounced some of these names. Forgive me for that. There are those that worship the deities of Bright or Casadali. But there are also those Taloses that refuse to associate with constructs, so they can be drawn away from some of these deities. Now, as I said, the plane of metal has only been back fairly recently. Last few years, even. There is still a connection with Taloses on Golarion, because TNZ had its nature that it never got rid of the elemental natures of wood and metal from their element list, basically from the elements they connected with. There is still a concentration of Taloses in Golarion there. Within the successor states, they used wood and metal just like earth, fire, air, and water. And because of that, we still had those elemental natures. In Numeria, sky metal have given rose into certain communities of Taloses with almost adamantine-colored hair and aqua-hued eyes. And there are some goblin dwarf communities that will have Taloses within them too. Again, it's exposure to certain types of metals or natures, alchemical things. That kind of stuff can occur. And similar to that, dwarves can have Orids because of this very often. They can have Taloses too. That elemental rock could be very close to the elemental metal over there too. The elemental plane of metal, of course, as a note, being between earth and water also. Kind of like connects up with that kind of like mud thing. It's part of the inner sphere, and it's been recently reopened. Among the Kaligie elves of the Moagi Expanse, Talos children do appear. It's very rare, but it's prized amongst their people. They perform a ritual known as the Unburdening that can make a Talos' body as strong and as resilient as the visible metal afflictions. So basically, they have a special ritual that makes the Talos' body as the metal they look to be. Now, Talos is on the plane of metal. Of course, connecting with the other side of their elemental nature, of their nature themselves as both humanoid and metal, do form tight, welcoming communities near Zura cities, with Grand Kondu near Argris, the most prominent of the influx of people from the universe. Because there's been an immigration of this, it's earned the joking name Little Golarion. So it's interesting to see that with this connection to the elemental plane of metal now, there are plenty of Taloses from Golarion that want to check out the other side of their origin. Now, there are 3 lineages I can mention. It reflects their place of origin, nature. There's Pharaoh souls, who exhibit traces of iron, bronze, and sturdy metals that are often used in weapons. Gilded souls, who exhibit traces of precious metals like adamantine, silver, gold, or halcyon. Quick souls, who exhibit traits of liquid metals like mercury, rubidium, gallium, and dezets. So, very interesting we have these 3 lineages of various metals. But, there you go. That's Taloses. It's not a great deal that we know. And again, we have one book that's introduced us to it. The idea that these two elemental planes, metal, wood, are now close again. That these Geniekin were around, but certainly we didn't talk about them because they were much rarer. But now, with this reemergence, they're not. And of course, there are places like Tianzi where you would have seen them, but not. The Tianzi book is something that is technically coming out this year. I think as of the date of this, I believe it has not been officially released. So, yeah. We're getting this book all about this portion of the world sooner rather than later. We haven't had that yet. And I think that's an important thing to reflect is, because we haven't reflected on an area that had a lot of Taloses. The areas that they would show up are rare and far between. Explains why we haven't talked about them. But now we know about them. Now we can discuss them. Now the elemental plane of metal is there for the visiting. It's reconnected with the material plane. And there are probably stories as to why it was gone. But we have something new, interesting, a new side of characters, a new group of Geniekin who can have that same dual nature that all of them have. Stuck between a mortal world and a world of elements. In this case, metal. And very similar to many Geniekin, that metal, that element, drives a lot of personality traits of many of them. We talked about how they can be kind of this idea of making themselves known in a lot of communities, of being inconsistent, not having substance, of this desire for attention. These are elements of that metal nature, that, or perhaps just elements of their nature as Geniekin or Children of Two Worlds. It's hard to tell sometimes. Where the forced upbringing that most of them, type of upbringing they incur as slight outsiders, and the very elemental nature they have deep within them, affect them. But Taloses are here now. We'll hopefully see more of them, learn more about them, and I hope you enjoyed learning about them too. Anyway, as I said, if you're going to check out more of my stuff, I do more Pathfinder and tabletop related stuff. Tuesdays, Thursdays, early afternoon, usually between 1 and 2, depending on life schedules. Thursday is the Pathfinder day. Saturdays around 11 o'clock, so late morning. Those are the days I talk about tabletop up on Twitch and eventually put it up on YouTube. I have a live play of Pathfinder First Edition on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. EST. That's Crimson Queen. And of course, discussing tabletop on Saturdays at 6 p.m. I have a Discord and a Twitter if you want to check out social media. And remember, if you're on Twitch, go check out the YouTube side and give it support. If you're on YouTube, hey, come and join me live on Twitch and check out my support there. I do other things other than tabletop stuff, but mainly we're here for the tabletop stuff, so I'm only mentioning that. But if you want to check out any other stuff I do up on Twitch, hey, that's Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, morning. Anyway, until the next time we talk about our Geniekin, another ancestry, something else in the Golarion world, the Pathfinder Pantheon. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.